What's up, A to Z Sports Live on a Monday. Glad to have everybody back along. Hope everybody had a good week last week. I know Zach and I took our regular 4th of July week vacation off from the show. I did give you guys some great content from clips from previous shows, but we are back at it and ready to rock and roll because we now really don't take time off until after the Super Bowl. Full sprint ahead. And got some big news in a couple different ways over the weekend as well. One of it being Filip Forsberg is remaining a Nashville Predator for at least the next 6 years. Then year 7, year 8 of that contract, kind of up in the air a little bit there. But going to have a great show today discussing what we think about the state of Tennessee and the superstars within the state in pro sports. Who is the biggest sports superstar in the state, and really how the Preds and the Grizz were able to do something that the Titans missed out on this summer. So we'll talk about that, and the Titans still have another opportunity as well later on this summer, potentially with that. A lot to get to. And then you see Zach Wilson on the screen there in the graphic. He had some drama over the weekend as well. So we'll discuss that, and then we'll ask an interesting conversation about young quarterbacks that Zach Wilson's in the group with. And then a would you rather there to wrap up the show like we do on Mondays with would you rather. Zach, welcome in. I think both of us sporting a little darker complexion after being at the beach for a few days, right?
Yeah, spent 4 days in Mexico. It was hot sun, but an enjoyable vacation. And glad to be back in the saddle as we get closer to training camp and we do more shows that, are closer to the football season. We're closer to real live action, but a lot to get to and a lot to talk about today and the rest of the week. We are broadcasting live on Facebook, YouTube, and on Twitch. We will tweet out that YouTube link, so make sure you're locked in at A to Z Sports on Twitter. You can follow us there. If you're on YouTube, like this video, please do like the video. That would help us out a great deal. And subscribe to our channel. We got great things going out on our channel, especially once training camp gets a little bit closer. And so we'll get you locked in there by subscribing to our channel. Facebook, what's going on, Facebookers? Bottom left corner of your screen. Share now to public. Sharing is caring, and caring is sharing on this show. More people are going to be rolling in over the next 5 to 10 minutes. And as you guys do, please share the show around, and we'll get this party started on a Monday morning. Let's rock and roll.
Yeah, let's do it officially. Welcome into A to Z Sports, powered as always by the BetMGM app. I'm Austin Stanley. He is Zach Bingham here live back from our vacation, but glad to have you guys along. We are Nashville's on-demand sports talk network. We go live every weekday morning at 8 Central Time on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Also find the links to the show on our Twitter feed and our Instagram story. Hit us up on TikTok while you're at it as well. Gotta thank our sponsors because they make it happen for us, and they help out you guys with the Bone and Joint Institute, boneandjointtn.org, the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care. Wilson County Hyundai, make them a part of your car buying process by going to see them in Lebanon or simply wilsoncountyhyundai.com. And Farm Bureau Health Plans. Get better with Farm Bureau Health Plans. Better coverage, better rates, better service. Learn more about a plan for you, fbhp.com/ATOZ. So, back from a week off, talking a lot today about the superstars in the state of Tennessee. Zach, I think this is like the healthiest in a while that we've seen the Titans, the Preds, and the Grizz all have big-time superstar names.
Yeah, well, before we get to that, I do want to talk a little bit about the vacation because I did get engaged for some of the people that have seen that in and around on social media. But I also want to tell the story about two other big catches that I made over the weekend. I went deep sea fishing. You talk about big fish in the state of Tennessee in sports. I caught a 170-pound shark over the weekend. And I also caught a 60-pound Cubera snapper over the weekend. So this was the best fishing trip I've ever had in my entire life. It was unbelievable. So I did want to start the show out and show off some trophy fish as we get to what our topic is.
Yeah, I mean, that's also the only fishing trip you've been on where you've come home with a fiance too.
Yeah, that's why I say great catches all around. But 170-pound shark, that's big time right there. On the note of the three superstars, in particular Filip Forsberg, they had to do that, right? I mean, they had to keep Filip Forsberg. They couldn't let him get away.
Right.
And I think if they let him get away, then you drop into complete rebuild mode where you have to go draft another superstar, which is very, very difficult. And you're trying to find, lightning in a bottle at the top of the draft, but you have to lose a lot of games. And Nashville is a tourism city. We all know that bachelorette parties and people coming to visit for work because of the Music City Center and all of that around. I look at this and I say, this was a great thing for the Predators because it keeps them a little bit more relevant for a longer period of time. When they went to the Stanley Cup, we were a part of that, Austin. We knew how it worked. I mean, that was they were on the main stage. The series leading up to the Stanley Cup and when they played the Penguins, and I know they didn't win, but all the people and all of the gold around Nashville, all of the Forsberg jerseys, right? And that was a time when PK Subban was still on the team. I mean, there was a lot of star power. They had to do this, and I'm glad they did do this. And this is one of those cases where we look at the NBA and the NFL, and we'll talk about those respected leagues here shortly. They have superstars that usually tend to leave or become divas and say, hey, I don't want to be here anymore. AJ Brown, we saw that over this past season. So that was, I think, a big deal for the Nashville Predators.
Yeah, no doubt. And it's interesting because the Preds have had superstars as a lot, right? Like PK Subban was one of the biggest superstars in the entire NHL. Was on the cover there as well of video games and all that, right? The Titans have had a couple covers of video games too, but like I was working for the Preds radio network when Filip Forsberg scored his first goal as a Pred. He was 18 years old, right? He's 27 years old now, and he just signed an 8-year contract. He's already the Preds' all-time leading goal scorer at just 27. He passed David Legwand earlier this spring. So now they have an opportunity to have another legend on the heels of Pekka Rinne retiring. And then with the Titans, they have Derrick Henry sitting in the holster, who's one of the biggest faces in franchise history. Derrick Henry's the best running back on the planet and is also being used for the NFL in a lot of different marketing ways. And then if you go I-40 West, John Morant just got a $230 million deal with the Memphis Grizzlies. And you talk about drafting well, and you talk about the luck of the lottery sometimes. I mean, crazy that the fact that the Grizzlies were able to get John Morant number 2 overall a few years ago. He's blossomed into being this exciting highlight-making superstar. And the fact is the Preds were able to get Forsberg locked up 8 years, $70 million. That's $8.5 million a year for hockey. That's a really strong contract. Good value for the Preds too. And then also you have John Morant out there getting a huge deal to stay in Memphis. And I think those are massive wins for both franchises, but it's also the same year that we see the Titans lose out on one of their young homegrown superstars with AJ Brown. And the biggest reason why the Titans missed on AJ Brown and they could not do what the Grizz and the Preds were able to do with Forsberg and Morant is because John Morant wanted to be a Memphis Grizzly. He connected himself with that city. Filip Forsberg spent his years 18 through 27 in Nashville, watched this city grow like crazy and wanted to be a Nashville Predator. He had to have a couple things happen. The trade the Preds made for the defenseman a week or so ago helped show Forsberg they're serious about being better and having a championship window continue. But the Titans, AJ Brown didn't want to be here. That's the end of it.
Well, that's not what he said.
Well,
so you're putting words in his mouth.
But his actions showed you that AJ Brown, when he shut down communication, that he wasn't all in on being a Tennessee Titan. Maybe he liked, I'm not saying A.J. Brown hated Nashville. I'm not saying he didn't want to be in Nashville or didn't like Nashville, but he did not care as much as John Morant or as Filip Forsberg to commit to being in Nashville for the long haul. It didn't matter as much to him. It definitely matters to John Morant. John Morant could be so much bigger of a superstar outside of Memphis. Filip Forsberg in Nashville in hockey, I get Nashville loves him, but he could have been so much bigger in the hockey world somewhere else, right? But those two guys wanted to commit to Nashville. A.J. Brown simply didn't. Now, the Titans have an opportunity with Jeffrey Simmons, maybe on later this summer, to show that they do commit to their superstars when they are worthy of being paid, just like they've done in the past, and just like the Grizz and the Preds have done in the past too.
Well, but A.J. Brown is much bigger of a superstar because of the position he plays, who he is, how he plays, compared to Jeffrey Simmons. So
sure,
but that's on a different scale, right? We're talking about scale on this show, and I think you got to look at the NBA, Austin. The trend of the NBA. John Morant is always going to sign that deal. Zion's going to sign that deal. Big-time superstars usually sign their first big contract with the team that drafts them. That's how it works. They go to free agency on their second deal, and they don't sign 8-year deals like Filip Forsberg did.
Sure.
It's 5, and there's outs. The players have options. Forsberg probably not going to see the end of 8 years. Just like Shea Weber didn't see close to the 10 years I think they tried to sign him for, right? Yes. So they traded his ass away. I do think for the A.J. Brown conversation, I think A.J. Brown, I think he wanted to be in Nashville, but I think A.J. Brown's aspirations to be the best wide receiver, I think it's really tough to be the best type of wide receiver in a market that is Nashville in the National Football League. You're just not going to get the notoriety. You want to go to a bigger market. John Morant could eventually go to a bigger market. He may stay his entire career in Memphis. And Filip Forsberg, I think that's on a completely different level because Filip Forsberg is not a top 5 NHL player. I don't even know if he's a top 10 NHL player. I think he's extremely good.
No, he's an all-star. Filip Forsberg is an all-star level player.
Doesn't mean that he's a top 10 level player. I think that A.J. Brown thinks he can be a top 10 type talent. And if you're a top 10 offensive talent at the wide receiver position in the NFL, that moves weight and it moves a lot of money. It's better to be in Philadelphia than it is in Nashville. And it's a sad truth. Derrick Henry is a unique situation because he doesn't play wide receiver. He plays a position that is less valued than maybe ever before. I probably would say it's coming back around, but it's still the running back position has changed. So I think we got a good conversation on the horizon, and I'm curious to hear what the chat has to say. But A.J. Brown got out of Dodge, and now looking back at it, it probably was smart for him to get out of Dodge because Dodge, the city of Nashville, is great for 23-year-old girls that love wearing cowboy hats. It's not great for NFL superstars that want to be at the top of the list.
Wide receivers. It's not great for wide receivers. It's great for pass rushers. It's great for running backs. It can be great for offensive linemen. We've seen tons of Pro Bowl, highly paid left tackles come to the city. It's wide receiver has been something that has struggled for decades in Nashville. Overall.
And with a wide receiver, what do you have to have? You've got to have a very talented quarterback. And the Titans have not had an elite or great type quarterback since Steve McNair. They just haven't. Tannehill is not it. So, and I don't think necessarily Jalen Hurts is. I think friendship probably got in the way.
Tannehill's better than Jalen Hurts.
But
everybody knows that.
Philadelphia is more likely to go out and pay and figure it out because that's the market that they are. Then Tennessee, the Titans and John Robinson did a very Titan thing by trading A.J. Brown. Let's build through the draft. Let's restart. Let's get value. And they did. We'll see if it pays off for him. And if Malik Willis, a valued pick, they were able to draft a wide receiver, so they were able to draft a quarterback in the 3rd round to see if he is any good. So we'll find all of this out, but AJ Brown is a part of this big three conversation. He's just no longer in the city.
Yeah, he would have been. AJ Brown would have been a part of this conversation. That's why I kind of wanted to bring that up, because big deals got done in Memphis and on Broadway with the Preds. Big deal hasn't gotten done so far this year. I mean, Harold Landry got done. That's a big deal. So you can't discount that. Forget that Harold Landry signed $87 million contract with the Titans earlier this year. So,
but he didn't sign $100 million contract that AJ did. That
right.
You know, there's a difference.
Yes. AJ. All right. So let's get to this question here, because we want to know this. Who is the biggest sports superstar in the state? It's a list of 3 because AJ's in Philadelphia now. But who is the biggest superstar in the state in pro sports right now? I think it's in a really healthy spot. But let me tell you about this. My foot's in a healthy spot because I went to the Bone and Joint Institute. I've got plantar fasciitis, and I knew I was going to the beach last week. Had to get right. Had to get help so I could walk on the sand and walk barefoot and not have pain. And I was able to do that because of what Dr. Jeff Watson and the Bone and Joint Institute were able to help me out with before my trip, and really how to help manage this injury for the foreseeable future, because it's not just going to go away. So boneandjointtn.org. It's super easy to make an appointment. Whenever you get hurt in life, know where to go, know how to trust them, and know which doctor to get to. You just go to boneandjointtn.org. You click make an appointment. You tell them what's bothering you, what is hurting. Then it sorts through the doctors who specialize in those type of injuries. You find their schedule, you book it. Boom, done. It's easy as that. boneandjointtn.org.
A to Z Sports, we are powered by BetMGM. Download the app today. Get ready for football season by downloading the app. Use that promo code ATOZ Sports right there on the screen. They're the king of sportsbook. And the best part is they've got you hooked up. Risk-free bet up to $1,000 with that promo code at ATOZSPORTS. All one word, no spaces. Enter that in the promo code. You get a risk-free bet up to $1,000. That's BetMGM. Download the app in your app store today.
Absolutely. A to Z Sports here live on this Monday. We're talking and reacting really to the Filip Forsberg contract over the weekend. Again, hat tip Don Davenport of 3HL for breaking that news. But also Ja Morant signed his big deal with Memphis the week before that to keep him in with the Grizz. $231 million for that the max of that contract for Ja to stay with the Grizzlies. So who is the biggest sports superstar in the state of Tennessee? Is it Derrick Henry, Ja Morant, or Filip Forsberg? That's our question right now. But Zach, let's head to the chat and see what people think.
Yeah, biggest sports superstar, Ja easily from Sean Gill. Henry is a close second. Filip Forsberg coming in from Steven, so we got a Forsberg on the way. Ja Morant from Rob. Danny says Derrick. Ja trumps all from G-Man. Derrick Henry from Eric. Henry from Aaron. Derrick Henry is the biggest in the state. Morant is number 2. It is the king from Noah, as says Ryan. But Dennis comes in here and says Ja, and it's not close. So Ja Morant from Ethan. I mean, this is back and forth. I think we got a close race between the king and Ja Morant. Deborah says Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry from Billy. Ronald says Ja nationally. He is known all over. King Henry from Deshaun. Keelan says Derrick Henry. On the real, it's Henry. NFL is too big. Money, viewership, and sponsorship talks. From Naderade 23, D. Henry from Marquee. I mean, they're coming back and forth. We had one Scoresburg, but the rest is Ja Morant versus Derrick Henry. You think this is that close that the chat thinks it's that close.
So the NFL is way bigger, right? Like, we know that. We know the NFL is the biggest, baddest pro sport in the United States of America. So Derrick Henry has that going for him. He also wears a helmet, and that's tough. And he's also not as outgoing of a person. And he's also on a sport that requires 11 people on the field at the same time, and he only plays one side of the ball. So he's got the NFL being the biggest league going for him and a lot of other things going against him. And so superstar is about not who's the best at what they do. It's who has the biggest profile, whose brand goes the furthest. And it's Ja Morant. He's the biggest superstar in the state by far. Derrick Henry's had time on his side of this as well because he's been around doing it longer than Ja. But Ja Morant exploded this year. Ja Morant has 7.3 million Instagram followers. I feel like he didn't have 1 million a year ago. I feel like Ja Morant exploded over this past season because of all the different highlights that he makes. It's like 3 times a game he does something. You're like, what the hell and how did he just do that? Like Derrick Henry had his explosion to 1.7 million Instagram followers when he ran for 2,000 yards, and then he followed it up with all these crazy workout videos. But Ja Morant, he just has more opportunity to make highlight plays that play into the hands and into the minds of people from 14 to 30. Like, I think Ja Morant has a bigger profile and is the bigger superstar compared to Derrick Henry.
So nationally, this is tough because what's the question, Austin?
Who's the biggest star in the state? We're not talking about, we're talking about the superstar. Like,
but what's the question?
That plays in the state. We're not talking about within the state.
What's the question?
Who's the biggest superstar in the state of Tennessee?
So to answer that, it's Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry, Tennessee is a football state. It's not a basketball state. Memphis is a basketball city. And look, nationally, you are correct about the highlights, but Derrick Henry is the Tennessee Titans. And Ja Morant are the Memphis Grizzlies, but the Memphis Grizzlies, they just jumped on the scene. You talk about nationally watching Derrick Henry playoff games, and you talk about numbers. The playoff games that Derrick Henry has been a part of, and I mean, he's won a couple of them. We referenced that a couple of weeks ago, right? Single-handedly won number 22. That is the jersey. And then the recognizable hair. I think that's a value. When you see Derrick Henry, that body, that build, the hair coming out from the helmet, you don't need FaceTime. All you need is that. And he's usually running away. And Derrick Henry has one of the singular biggest highlights in NFL history, which is the 99-yard run. And not to mention all the stiff arms, right? I mean, we know Josh Norman, and the list goes on and on. I think the popularity of the NFL, I think singularly you are correct. Instagram, but that also is worldwide, right? In Europe, it is a big, Ja Morant is known. In the state of Tennessee, it is Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry dominates this state because of the sport he plays and the longevity. I think in the long run, Austin, I think Ja Morant will surpass Derrick Henry by far, right?
I think, yeah.
But he hasn't yet.
I honestly think it's happened. I think this past year, because look, Sean says Zach is right, Austin, you're wrong. I don't think you're there yet. I think
eventually you will be right. I don't think you're right now.
I think it's already happened, because what happened this year for Derrick Henry? He got hurt. He missed 2 + 3 months.
He's already done his damage. He's already he had more eyes on him in his playoff games than Ja Morant has ever had on him. It's just the facts. Go look at the ratings. It is.
I understand
by far. Like you talk about, like
tens
of millions of people watch.
Being a superstar today goes more than just TV ratings.
Who has the biggest brand endorsement?
Probably Derrick Henry. I don't know how much he's being paid. But
yeah, Nike and Old Spice. You don't see Old Spice or other big brands jump onto Ja Morant yet because they're on other guys. They're on Steph Curry. They're on bigger superstars. So that's another reason why I disagree with you.
I think Ja Morant is.
He doesn't have the sponsorship deals. That's a huge part about it.
Yet, but he's going to.
But that's my argument.
Alex
you're too early.
Alex says Ja has Hulu. See, I don't have Hulu, but a lot of people do.
Derrick Henry has been in the game longer. He just has longevity.
But Ja Morant is in the sport that elevates its superstars more. Derrick Henry is like people are doubting Derrick Henry right now. And Scott says Ja has Nike and body armor.
Yeah, but and Nika says Henry has FedEx, right? So again, 22, the Titans and 22, those go together, and they've gone together for a longer period of time. And within the state of Tennessee, are you going to argue that Derrick Henry is less recognizable than Ja Morant?
Like if you're going to put a fence around it and put it, and
well, that was the question initially.
No, I mean that was your interpretation of the question because I wrote the question. That was not my intention of the question.
But what is the question? Read the question.
So again, that's I'll take responsibility for you interpreting it the wrong way because I didn't be as clear as I could have been. I was using who is the biggest star in this, like that plays within the state. Who is the biggest superstar outside of the state? It's Ja Morant. If you want to put a fence around the state of Tennessee, then sure, I'm fine with you saying Derrick Henry. I'm not going to really argue that because I understand how much the Titans mean within the state compared to the Grizz not. But Ja Morant has a bigger profile, and it's just going to continue to explode because he is really just getting started.
I don't agree. I don't disagree with your last statement. We agree on your last statement. That's not the question. It's right now. And right now, the NFL is about 50 times more popular than the NBA. It just is. It just moves the ratings so much more. You talk about playoff games and eyeballs. People don't watch the NBA playoffs. People think that it is useless until the fourth quarter. And the Grizzlies, this is the first time that they've been in the playoffs and done something, and they lost in the second round in a long time. The Titans and Derrick Henry went to the AFC Championship game. Mm-hmm. That AFC Championship game was viewed more than probably all of Ja Morant's playoff games combined.
Again, I'm
Do you agree or disagree with that?
Sure, yeah, but again, they're not going to that for Derrick Henry. They're going to that because it's NFL football.
He was the biggest player. He was the biggest superstar on the team.
But again, like people watch NFL playoff games because it's the NFL and it's a playoff game.
But that's recognizable superstar, right? You now associate all of those eyes on that singular AFC Championship game. Recognize Derrick Henry was the reason why they got there. Austin, that wasn't even his best game. His best game was the week before in Baltimore.
Sure. No, I know the game.
And that was a prime time game.
I know it was a Saturday night. I was watching it with you. Like I know all these things. You don't have to remind me.
But again, I feel like I do because that's eyeballs.
Yeah, I understand that. But Ja Morant's got 7.3 million eyeballs, sets of eyeballs on his Instagram account, and Derrick Henry's got 1.7. There's a different, like the NFL and the NBA are split from the generations that give a shit about them. And really, I think the most valuable viewer, the most valuable set of eyeballs are Ja Morant's, not what Derrick Henry's getting on a television set. No, because of how things are changing.
The most valuable set of eyeballs is watching you play.
I know that. And you can watch Ja Morant do things on your phone so many more opportunities than Derrick Henry. The NBA is set up to have their superstars be elevated like this.
No, and he will get there, Austin. The trajectory of Ja Morant, is mind-blowing, right? He's ahead of Zion because of all of the injuries, right? So, he is not, Austin. He is not in the top 5. He's not maybe even in the top 10 if you go through superstars in the NBA that have already been established, right? Klay Thompson is more popular, and he's not better, but Klay Thompson has more of a profile because he's been in the game longer.
Right.
It's the same argument that I'm giving for Derrick
Klay
Henry.
Thompson's also a Hall of Famer.
But that's what I'm saying. Ja Morant is down the list. Derrick Henry is the best player at his position in the most popular league.
So again, I don't want people to think I'm dumping on Derrick Henry because that's not what I'm doing here. Because my point is the fact that Derrick Henry is one of the bigger faces of the NFL, and Ja Morant is an absolute rising rocket ship of a superstar in the NBA that does the best.
Where is his rocket ship now? It's not to the level of Derrick Henry.
I think it's I do. I really like I think it's Ja Morant. And so look again, I think there's really good cases for both, right? So I think Ja Morant is is a bigger superstar for the demographic that matters the most for sports fans.
Oh,
that's fine.
Man, Jake, read that comment from Jake.
I know, I see it.
No, read it out loud.
30.75 million viewers for the Titans Bengals playoff game. Grizz Warriors playoff series averaged 5.9 million over 6 games.
And that was just one playoff game for Derrick Henry. He's played in what? 1, 3, 4 more. Well, 5 more.
Keelan says, "Bye, Austin. You're stubborn." Okay. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I have an opinion. I have an opinion, and I'm sorry that you disagree with my opinion.
Well, this justifies it's a good topic. It's a good conversation.
And Nika says, y'all never agree on anything. Well, how much fun, Nika? How much fun would it be if me and Zach? Yeah, man, good point. Oh, great. Like we have to find things to create different conversations.
But he didn't. But you didn't know I was going to pick Derrick Henry.
I had no idea who you were going to pick. No idea. I had no idea who you were going to pick. I actually thought you were going to go with Ja Morant, to be honest.
I would 2 years from now. I'm not going to do it now. Derrick Henry, this is like, I think at the tipping point of Derrick Henry. Now, this is going to be unique because if Derrick Henry comes back and rushes for 1,800 yards or close to 2,000 yards, and he's that same back he was prior to that foot injury last year, we're all going to be like, okay, well, he's still here, not going anywhere. But if he starts to wane or gets hurt again, that's when that rocket ship will start to come down and Ja Morant will fly by him. But it's just not to the point. Austin, how long has Derrick Henry been in the league?
I think he's going into year 7.
Right? So, that's the difference.
Ja Morant's going into year 4.
2019. And he's going into year 4.
But Zach, here's the crazy thing. Derrick Henry has been on the big national stage for 10 years. Ja Morant has not. Ja Morant's been for 4 years.
That's my point. But you just proved my point.
No, but my point is Ja Morant is already blowing by Derrick Henry when it comes to the generation of teenagers and young adults, which is what people want. That's what the NBA wants. Ja Morant has already grown past social media following and influence 5 times that of Derrick Henry, who was at Alabama, who won the Heisman Trophy. Ja Morant went to Murray State.
Football.
And he's right. I got it. I've already said that football is the one thing that Derrick Henry has going for him in this conversation.
And it trumps everything.
I don't know.
No. Read Jake's comment again. If you don't know, this is all you need to know.
Zach, people watch it because of the but Zach, people watch that because of the shield, because of the NFL logo that's over your head, not because of Derrick Henry.
How many people are watching Ja Morant on a Tuesday night versus the Sacramento Kings?
I don't, but you know what I do? I have notifications set up on my phone for Ja Morant highlights because I want to see them.
If you watch the NBA, you know Ja Morant was hurt for a number of games this year too.
No, I know that. He missed like 20-something games.
So, that's it.
And guess
30
what?
million people.
I know that. But they're not there. Like 30 million people also watched Ryan Tannehill. They also watched Joe Burrow get sacked 9 times.
All right. I'm gonna throw my heavy hitter at you. I've saved this to the end of the debate.
Okay.
2 words. Fantasy football, not fantasy basketball.
No,
fantasy football. Who gets a ton? What is the one position? You may not play fantasy football, but I'll just go ahead and tell you.
I don't.
The one position that you need to draft very high because they go quick.
Yeah, it's running back. Because
that's why you just lost your argument.
No,
the popularity of Derrick Henry in fantasy football over the last 5 years has dominated, and people, Karen in accounting, who was a part of her fantasy football league at work at the paper company, now knows Derrick Henry because she won the coin toss to get the number 1 overall pick and selected Derrick Henry. There are about 1 million Karens all across the United States. There you go. Derrick Henry wins this conversation based on longevity and fantasy football.
Yeah, Jonathan says, "Hey Austin, can I tell you about my fantasy football team?" Jonathan gets the show, but look, that's a good point. It's a great argument for the side of Derrick Henry. Again, I just think the NBA does way better at elevating its superstars than the NFL does, and longevity in fantasy football in the NFL. That's what Derrick Henry has going for him. John Morant's got all the other things. So again, we can go ahead and put this to bed. The good part is that this is great for the state, right? Is it the Grizzlies? People can start caring more about the Grizzlies because John Morant is fun as hell to watch. People like Derrick Henry on and off the field. That's good for the Titans brand. They're building their fan base. I saw this. The Titans were third in NFL teams who increased their attendance from year to year, who played in the same stadium. That's good.
Who's keeping record of those? I don't know. Anything that comes out of ticket sales of the Titans, I don't know.
They got caught 7 years ago or whatever for
doing it for how long?
Yeah, I know, but they're not going to continue to do it after they get caught.
You lose my credibility.
But Zach, we know this. Like you could see it and hear it on TV. You could see it and feel it in the city that people were going to Titans games, right? The Titans fan base is growing at a very fast rate. Derrick Henry has a ton to do with that. That's awesome. That's good. John Morant will help do some similar things to the Grizzlies, expand them outside of their county, because that's kind of what the Grizzlies' footprint is right now, which is unfortunate.
More people had the opportunity to draft Derrick Henry in the first round of their fantasy football team than watched the entirety of the NBA playoffs this year.
Okay.
I mean, think about that.
All right,
it's wild. That is my heavy hitter. I think Ja will surpass Derrick Henry, and it will probably be sooner rather than later, just because one is going up. The other one, I don't know. I mean, he's very high. I don't know if that curve, if the bell is going to turn, we're going to find out this year for the Titans.
All right, so Nate brings it up. Don't forget about Zach Wilson. We're going to talk about Zach Wilson now and get into that story. But first, Zach, tell everybody about Farm Bureau Health Plans.
Yeah, FBHP.com is where to go to get your new health plan. I did that earlier this year. Farm Bureau Health Plans helped me. Better coverage, better rates, better service, 200 plus locations across the state of Tennessee. And man, it really did help me. I saved 20% per month from my previous plan to my new plan at fbhp.com/A to Z. You can give them a call. I did. I talked to a real person. The customer service was great. And if you know anything or watch the show about me, I'm going to ask you a ton of questions. They were able to answer all of my questions and give me a great rate. You can be a part of their plan too. That's Farm Bureau Health Plans, fbhp.com/ATOZ.
Also, don't forget, you got to download the BetMGM app and use our code ATOZ Sports. You get a risk-free bet up to $1,000. I was outside the state of Tennessee. I was in Florida for a few days, which I whenever I leave town, I like traveling, but it also takes me away from BetMGM. So now I'm back with BetMGM. You can use our code ATOZ Sports for risk-free bet up to $1,000 with your first bet after your first deposit. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. 21 or older. Tennessee only. New customer offer. All promotions subject to qualification, eligibility requirements. Rewards issued at non-withdrawable free bets for credit. Free bets expire in 7 days. For problem game support, call Tennessee Redline 800-889-9789. Zach Wilson in the news. So Zach, I will let you catch everybody out to Zach Wilson's story if somebody has not heard it yet.
Yeah, it is weird. But you know, there's two things that really magnified this. It being July, and there being sites like Barstool and TMZ and with nothing to talk about, right? And so when this hit, and look, social media, Instagram, it tells all. Zach Wilson was dating this his girlfriend from BYU who was at the draft, if you saw that. They broke up. It happens. Relationships come in and out, and especially at that age. But the unique part is that his ex-girlfriend started dating his best friend from BYU, the wide receiver who plays for the Commanders now. And so there's drama because she starts posting, because it's Instagram, with the new boyfriend. Now, Zach Wilson profile, you talk about quarterback for the New York Jets, that's big time, right? So a lot of eyes. And this is where it all went wrong. It's when somebody commented essentially that she was a cleat chaser. If you've ever heard of that term, it's women that date a lot of athletes, right? But the term was homie hopping, which it was friends, the two guys were homies. And she responded that Zach Wilson, the reason why the relationship went south is because Zach Wilson, she insinuated, possibly could have cheated on her with one of Zach Wilson's mom's best friends. So then you have all of, now the drama goes on and the drama goes on. That's why we're in the news. But I wanted to talk more about football in the sense of, and I think we've got a good question here. I tried to pick who is the most comparable quarterback right now to Zach Wilson. The only quarterback that I could come up with as far as team.
On or off the field?
We're talking about on the field.
I was going to say Jimmy Garoppolo.
Ooh, off the field would be Jimmy G, because Jimmy G made this mistake early on in his career by mingling with a porn star in San Francisco in California, right? Somebody had to talk to Jimmy and say, hey, Jimmy, you don't want to do that, right? So I like the off the field. Jimmy's probably the good comp, but on the field, which quarterback would you rather have? Zach Wilson or Justin Fields? Both played for terrible teams. Mm-hmm. Both had rough starts because of said terrible teams. I want to put that to the chat and see what people think. And Drew says Baker off the field has drama, but it's not like relationship drama like that. But Baker's taking his team to the playoffs, right? Well, he's just a little bit further in his career.
There was also the story with Baker Mayfield that when he tested positive for COVID this past season, he played Halo like 10 hours a day leading up to the game, got back healthy in time for the game from COVID, and then played horribly and threw 4 picks. And there's like tweets of some kid saying, I just played, a few hours with Halo with Baker Mayfield, and Baker Mayfield has some immaturity type things about him, but not like what Zach Wilson is. My one comment on the Zach Wilson like drama is that I do find it weird that so many people are celebrating the fact that he allegedly cheated. Whatever. I think that's kind of sleazy.
Well, it was who, right? You have a 20.
I know.
Just a joke, right?
But it's now that's what's dominating the story, that a lot of people are.
Because that's what most people want to care about or fantasize about or whatever you want to call it, right?
So on the field, I think I kind of feel like I trust Justin Fields more, because I saw him have better success in college for a longer period of time against higher competition. Like Zach Wilson played at BYU. He had 1 year where he blew up and was balling out. But like it's easy to ball out against San Diego State and other teams that you're playing as BYU compared to playing against legitimate defenses with better coaches, better players. And yes, Justin Fields has a lot better people around him, like that wide receiver group at Ohio State that's just, full of NFL guys. But I feel like Justin Fields is somebody I trust more in the fact that he's been through a higher level of football.
That's fair, because
we can only go off of rookie years with the worst teams in the league, right? Like 2 of them. Because Trevor Lawrence was not great either with the worst team too.
I think Trevor. I take Trevor Lawrence over both of them, right?
Well, yeah,
So
because you saw him win a national title. Like Justin Fields did a lot of really good things at Ohio State that make you trust him.
Here's where I don't trust Justin Fields. My fear on Justin Fields is that he is going to be a safety guy where he's not going to take the risks that you have to take in the NFL to make the big plays because he's going to dump down or make the short throw. Like the Blake Bortles or the Chad Pennington, the Christian Ponder. They're just not going to take the risks to do it. Now, it's feast or famine because Zach Wilson had 11 picks and only 9 touchdowns. But I actually take Zach Wilson more because he's more of a risk taker. We'll find out quicker if Zach Wilson will be no good. But it's so hard because the Bears and the Jets, now the Jets more than the Bears, the Jets will kill a quarterback. I mean, look at Sam Darnold. He's a top 3 pick. His career is taking a complete turn for the worst, right? Like he just got traded over. And so, but I take Zach Wilson, I think, based on his eagerness to make plays. I think his ceiling is higher. I think he'll crash and burn quicker, but I think his ceiling is higher. The Bears, it's kind of the prototypical Bears quarterback. It's sexy Rexy. He's not going to make the big play because he's just going to do what's best for the offense and the football team. It's McMahon on the 85 Bears, right? He didn't take them to the Super Bowl. It was that defense and sweetness. Yeah. And so I kind of see that more in Fields. But again, we're year one. So we both may be completely wrong, but I'll take Zach Wilson.
I'm taking Justin Fields. I think Justin Fields has, the 2 years that he played at Ohio State were insane, right? Because he had the one full year as a sophomore when he threw 41 touchdowns with 3 interceptions, again, at Ohio State as a sophomore. Then in the COVID shortened year, he only played 8 games, still threw 22 touchdowns and 6 picks and did a lot of good things to get them to the college football playoff championship game, through, busted ribs and all that stuff, where Zach Wilson as a junior, he had 33 touchdowns with 3 interceptions at BYU. That's what made him the second overall pick, but he only started 9 games as a sophomore, and he basically had his Jets numbers, 11 touchdowns, 9 picks. So I just don't trust the BYU quarterback more than the Ohio State quarterback who's done it for multiple years.
And I don't trust the Jets or the Bears. The Bears are different because they just got a brand new coach and general manager, right? So they started over. So they're not going to spend money until probably not this next offseason, but the following offseason. That's when they're going to spend their big money. The Jets have no patience like most New Yorkers. And so they're just going to spin and be bad. But if he hits, they're going to really help him quicker.
Well, which franchise do you trust more? I trust the Bears more than I trust the Jets.
Well, I think you have to based on success and history, right? And Woody Johnson still owns the team.
Yeah, and so I stick with my Justin Fields answer.
If Gary Vaynerchuk owned the team, then I'd think a little different. If Gary V on the team, I think I'm going Jets all the way. But I do trust the Bears more. I don't know. This is going to be interesting to follow over the next couple of years.
Yeah, for sure.
They're starting at the same rate, right? The same pace.
Yeah, playing for bad teams and being forced to play, right?
Yeah.
All right. So let's get to our Would You Rather segment where Zach has a scenario for us. A Would You Rather. But first, tell us all about Wilson County Hyundai.
Yeah, Wilson County Hyundai is where you need to go to get your next ride. It is that simple. Quick trip down I-40 exit 236. Austin and I have broadcasted there numerous times. They've got inventory. You can take a look at wilsoncountyhyundai.com. And the best part is they have your perfect make and model, whether it's an SUV, a 4-door sedan, a smaller SUV. WilsonCountyHyundai.com's got you locked in. Payne Bone and his team will hook you up with a great deal. Save some money. Don't buy from, downtown Nashville. The cost is high. Go a little bit out, and it's a quick trip, but go to Wilson County and go to wilsoncountyhyundai.com. Look at their inventory and test drive a vehicle today.
It is esports. We've been putting out Titans prop bets for futures, and so you can take advantage of that with BetMGM. Really some good stuff that Jack Gentry, our guy, is posting on our social media for BetMGM with some prop bets and futures for the Titans. But if you haven't done it yet, you absolutely need to. That's download the BetMGM app and sign up with our code ATOZ Sports. That gives you a risk-free bet up to $1,000 with your first bet after your first deposit. So check that out with code ATOZ Sports. Risk-free bet up to $1,000 with your first bet with BetMGM code ATOZ Sports. Let's get to our Would You Rather today, Zach.
Well, love of the show is going to Danny because
Okay.
Danny saw right through the show. We're July 11th, so we create these topics. And Danny says, you just did a Would You Rather with Fields and Wilson. That was the original plan. Danny, I woke up this morning and that was my original Would You Rather. But we moved some things around because Zach Wilson was obviously relevant.
It's more of a conversation to have. Yeah.
Right. So Danny, congratulations. Love of the show right there because you saw the pre-work that we did. Here is the question though. And this is a little off the wall. I had to go find this. But would you rather be the first person to explore a planet or be the inventor of a drug that cures a deadly disease? This has some depth to it. So would you rather be the first person to explore a planet or be the inventor of a drug that cures a deadly disease? I thought it was a good question. Initial thoughts, Austin.
Initial thoughts, cure the drug cure. That's my initial thoughts.
That was also my initial thought. And then I came to like the weird conclusion. I wouldn't even say a conclusion. I'm still debating it. Like Steve Jobs was great to this world, but he also destroyed it, right? I mean, the creation of these things and our youth and kids and, 3-year-olds that misbehave because all they want is this damn thing. And they can't, they're pitching a fit at dinner at a restaurant because all they want is their iPad or their iPhone. So there are good and pros and cons to everything in life.
Yeah.
Look, we have created a business that has helped put food on our tables, right? Because of Steve Jobs. But curing a deadly disease, I sit there and I say, wow, let's say just cure cancer. My dad died of prostate cancer, so it hits close to me. I wish he was still alive. But there's also the population control, right? Because how many people die of cancer throughout the course of the world? And, are we overpopulated because we cure this deadly disease? So you actually hurting the world society because of it. That was kind of my initial thought on that. And then you go to the planet. I mean, to be the first person to explore a planet would be unbelievably cool and obviously survive it, right? I mean, go to Mars, explore, have all the things that you need to do it. I think it's a unique conversation.
Yeah, but there's also a risk of you might not make it. Like that trip, you might not make it. I think
that because you cure the deadly disease, I took it as you make the successful trip, right?
Okay. So you're saying you successful. Well,
you both are success, like, right? You successfully.
I mean, but no, you would be the first person to explore the planet. That doesn't mean you got back.
Yeah, but you have to have the successes, right? You're going to have the successes of inventing the drug.
Yes, but the success.
Well, you invent the drug and you die the next day, right? So we're not playing that game.
But that's how I interpret it. Like that.
But you're asking me a question. And that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
The success rate for both of them has got to be successful. So if you are going to yield the fruits of your labor for inventing the drug, you have to yield the fruits of your labor for exploring the planet.
Again, I would still go the inventor of the drug that cures the disease. Like that is where I would go, just because You're saving lives. You're making other people happy. You're curing, you're giving people health. And I'd value that. Not that I care about, the credibility for it or the whatever, but I would prefer to have the cure to those diseases. I don't care, like the planet. Like, when's the last time you thought about the solar system?
Yesterday.
Really?
Yeah, I think about space all the time.
I mean, that's a you thing. The last time I thought about the solar system was when we had a question on Tuesday Sports Trivia like 2 weeks ago.
Space is fascinating.
Yeah. Again, that's an interest for you. That's fine. It's not an interest for me, which maybe also impacts your answering of this question. I don't necessarily care about space. I think it's cool. I like when I can see the Big and Little Dipper in my backyard. I think that's fun, but I don't like care. But I would rather find the cure.
I'm going planet. And it's just because of my interest in space.
But that's, there are.
And then the overpopulation thing is a thing.
Yeah, but again, like, you're not curing all like deadly diseases. You're curing a deadly disease.
Yeah, but if cancer is the deadly disease.
Yeah, but there's so many different types of cancer. It's not like one drug's going to fix every cancer. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you might have fixed one deadly disease, and there's a lot of
AIDS. How many people are going to have their lives saved for AIDS?
That's huge, right? Like, so I would rather cure the disease. I don't care about flying around Uranus.
Yeah, well, here's my pushback on even my own answer. It's probably going to be deserted, right? Like, there's not going to, like, the probability. I do believe in extraterrestrial life. I don't think it's on our solar system. I don't know.
Well, nobody knows. You can think, don't know. But again, like, this is pretty simple. Like finding the planet is a purely selfish answer, to be honest. Like, it's only like you found the planet. Okay, like, it's really cool.
What if it was a planet like Earth, right? That there is opportunity to have other, I don't even know if humans, but
but again, like, you're gonna be dead by the time, I still
think, with a success.
No, you're gonna be dead by the time you do anything with that potential other Earth-like planet relationship. I think it's find the cure for the deadly disease, and you help people now, like, develop it for the now, right?
I'm going space. I'm sticking with space.
Okay. All right. Well, there we go. That's our Monday show. Back from our vacation week. We'll be back for the entire week moving forward. We got a ton of stuff planned. Again, you definitely need to subscribe to us on YouTube for a lot more conversation when it comes to Titans training camp. Next week is SEC Media Days, so there'll be a lot of coverage at our website, A2Zsports.com, for that. The Vols having a couple big commits. Also, check out the Big Orange podcast later on today with some reaction to that. And then also Buck Rising live tonight, A2Z Sports Primetime. But seriously, you must give us a subscription to our YouTube page. If you're a Titans fan, you don't want to miss out, because we will have the best YouTube coverage of Titans training camp coming up in just about 2.5 weeks. So we'll see you guys later on a Tuesday. Have a great rest of your Monday. Appreciate it as always.